Welcome, welcome. I'm going live today. Um, and I want to talk about a hot topic tonight because everyone's talking about it. And it's going to be AI or artificial intelligence. And the premise of my live stream chat tonight is it a threat? Because some people feel it's a threat. To me, uh I think of it as you can use it. It's a powerful tool. Um, to me, it's just another way of music is being created. But there are a lot of people that don't like that. They don't like the fact that you know artificial intelligence is creating music. And so basically, um, it's kind of like so that's gonna be the hot topic tonight about AI. Okay, as people start to tune in and start to put their comments in the chat as we talk about this, i was um I was basically just introduced. I've always I've known about AI for years, but um you know as far as AI, but I decided to dabble with it uh within just around Christmas time. And a friend of mine introduced me to it, and so I started checking out some of the different AI, and I got on Suno, and so far I'm just blown away what Suno is doing with this AI and the music. So hey, welcome DL. No, I don't know when I say is it a threat doesn't mean it's a do I feel it's a threat. I'm just saying I'm just using that as a generic term. Is it a threat? Some people may feel that it is. Some people may feel that it isn't. Um, Personally, for me, it's not a threat to me because whether AI is creating music or whatever, um, whether it's creating music or not, um, or if I'm creating the music. But some people feel that it's not genuine music unless humans create it. So that's kind of going to be the topic. Is it a threat, to music creators? I don't know. I know from what I put like this. I was on Suno for about a week now, and I've already came up with 90 songs. But at the same time, I'm not going to let Suno be my priority music creator. I can create my own tracks. My only limitation is really vocalists. Um, and the only downside that I've seen to Suno is you do not get to choose your vocalists. But I have to give Suno props for the stuff that it's creating musically. Um, so um, so I'm here to the live stream um to talk about that. Now, here's some going to be some of my pros, and here's going to be some of my cons. The pros to like AI programs like Suno is that for someone who does not, they can't play an instrument or whatever, and they need music. It could be an artist, like for example, there are a lot of artists today that don't play their instruments. They have musicians that play their music for them. They can go into Suno and have Suno or AI generators like that create the music for them because you do not have to use Suno's vocalists. You can make Suno can just create instrumental tracks. And if you pay for it, you can download the stems. Let's say Suno created a guitar or keyboard line or whatever. You can download the tracks and don't have to use those parts. You can input your own tracks. I don't want to use guitar. I want to maybe use a lead sound from my keyboard. and replace that guitar part. You can do that. Um, so it's an advantage for people, especially the ones that don't are not really good at creating their own music and they need music or music ideas. The con to it is that Suno is generating based on what it thinks you want. So, and sometimes it might generate something that you may not want, or you might be thinking far left. So, but I was checking out some other ones. I was also messing with this AI program called Tune, and every time I try to generate something, it would always say generation failed due to audio or whatever. That's already a, a bad taste in my mouth about that. Even though there's someone on YouTube talking about Suno versus Tune, but there's other ones out there. I tried to mess with Udio, and it just didn't generate anything close to what I was thinking. But out of all of them so far, Suno seems to be the one that would generate something, and it does it quick. You give it an idea, input lyrics or whatever, and it's pretty much 90+% in the ballpark of what I was thinking. The arrangements, the vocals, the harmonies, the whole deal. So I can see why millions are on Suno over the other ones so far. Now there's other AI generator. Maybe I haven't found them all yet. I'm still looking at them. I'm still checking them out because I'm fairly new to this AI thing. Now, what I want to talk about is the reason why I want to talk about why it can be a concern is simply because I think that in the music world, we get so complacent with in the now. And what I mean by that is in the the present time frame that we're in. I look at it when I go back, I'll look at it like this. I bet you a lot of people um a lot of people um in the 40s when they used to record big bands um would have never thought that big band those type of music would ever went out of style. Now you don't even hear, you actually have to search for big band. I'm talking about songs like Take the A Train. So I think that they never thought that was going to ever go out. But times have changed. It's the same thing with CDs and cassettes. They never thought cassettes would ever go out, or CDs. ADAT machines, 2-inch tape machines. Now look how we're working in recording studios today, and now plugins. Versus having a console and outboard gear. A lot of people just using DAWs and plugins. It's just evolving. So, DL, you're asking, will it generate checks? Well, nothing's guaranteed to generate a check. You can open up a food store and think opening up a food business, a restaurant, and think that you're going to have loads of customers that's going to come to your business. It's hit or miss. That's like anything in life, So my man says you have some latency. Yeah, it's always been going on since I've been doing these live streams. The camera, this camera and the audio can't keep up with each other. So you're probably gonna see me talking and hear me before the videos lag. It's been like that since I've been, since I went with this camera. But the video quality of this camera is 10 times better than what I was using when I was using my little web cam. So, and And the way I live stream, you can't change the delay. Like if I was in working in UBS studio or something like that, you have ability to change that, but I haven't really got a chance to. I never get a chance to test it in OBS studio to fix latency and all that. So it's just most people that watch these live streams every Sunday, they just kind of like, okay, we know there's lag. So if that's what you want, oh, you gotta say, you see, I understand, gotcha. Okay, so anyhow, talking about the AI, I think a lot of people that will not like AI is because AI is doing all the work. Um, and the thing is, they're making high quality songs ready to go, you know. And but I look at it as a tool because you do not have to use AI. You can actually, if you make music, still continue to make music. But AI is doing Suno and AI companies like that are doing it so fast. And Suno, out of all of them so far, is basically checking all the blocks to the expectations. So, and what I mean by that, out of all of them, so far from Suno and the songs I did on there, what I've noticed is that I wanted a like 90s groove R&B, and then I would even have it generate lyrics. And I would every now and then I would go there and make because it'll make something generic, some generic lyrics like coffee on the table. I might not want to say coffee on the table. I might say relaxing in bed. So I'll just change the words to from coffee on the table to like relaxing in bed. And that's what AI is going to sing. But what I like about it with the R&B, and of course, then they get the AI vocals, it'll be instead of coffee on the table, it's doing something like that. It's doing all these little, and it's doing stuff like that. I'm like, it's already like, man, it's already, the vocal arrangements are already ready to go. I'm like, that is, I was blown away, especially with the harmonies and the backgrounds and the feel and the groove. And I'm like, I'm just blown away how good Suno is. So welcome, Michael. It says I have Suno and it makes two versions at a time to pick instrumentals or songs, and it sounds like the instrument music at the top of the charts. Yeah, exactly. It just it will, yeah, it does. A generation you can pick, or you can actually have it generate two more. You can have it keep generating. And on top of that, with the advanced features, have the ability to remix what it generated. It's just that Suno is crazy. Born Shamir, welcome. Tactical Committee, welcome. I'm just talking about AI. Yep, exactly. Yep. You said if you have the paid, you own all the publishing, whatever you. Yep. Very true. So, uh, so May says I don't like any software that is web based. Well, I just have to say it's kind of like I was making an analogy with a friend of mine, and they did it. There was this video where this lady, she was probably in her 60s. This is the this we're talking the 2000s now, and she was trying to get a job, and she was trying to apply with paper applications, and they were like, "What are your skill sets?" And she said, "Well, I can type 60 words a minute, blah blah blah." And it's like, "Okay, well, how good are you with Microsoft Word?" She said, "Well, I don't use Microsoft. I don't use computers. I do it on a typewriter." They said, "Well," they're trying to explain, "Well, we don't have typewriters here. We have, PCs when we use Word document, like Microsoft Word to type the documents." She says, "Well, I don't use a computer. So naturally, she's not going to get a job because she's behind. You got, it's just whether it's kind of like with software and computers, whether you want to accept it or not, you can't think that things are going to continue to stay the way they are. They're just not. Everything's going to evolve. It's kind of like people that when cars first came out, everyone was riding horse and buggies. A lot of people were afraid of cars when they first came out. So, but now most people, everyone today owns a car. they're going to be way faster than you can travel across country 10 times faster than you would on horse and buggy. And on top of that, cars provide heat, AC, all the amenities when you're traveling. You ain't getting none of that on a horse and buggy. And so it's kind of like you got to accept that, it's almost like with these guys that have recording studios that with tape machines. And I'm just not going to ever use a DAW. I'm just going to do everything on the tape. You're going to get left behind because no one's going to use tape. They're just not. So, Zone Recording Studios, yeah, it says there's nothing like playing with other musicians. Exactly. I mean, trust me, everyone that has a legitimate argument that may not be not feeling the AI, it's like me. I love playing with other musicians as well because I'm a musician. But the problem is when I'm, only downside is when I'm up here, it's just me. And I play other instruments. I can play the bass, I can play guitar, but I don't play guitar like George Benson. I don't play bass like Victor Wooten. I would love to have the actual bass player, but a lot of those people are not accessible. And a lot of the musicians that are that good, they're in different states. Especially having a vocalist that can sing my tracks. So I have to have alternatives. Not saying that AI would be my alternative, but it's sure helps to have an idea and have AI sing it so I can get the idea. It's kind of like if you use AI, use it as a tool. You don't have to use the AI that it generates. You can take the same song and go back and redo it with real musicians and a real vocalist and put that out. But it sure is nice to have a female vocalist or a male vocalist sing ideas so you can kind of hear what it's going to sound like, especially if you're a person that can't sing. So that's kind of how I look at it. So this says, does this mean that commercial studios will become a thing of the past? Commercial studios are starting to become a thing of the past. I think commercial studios will be it's going to be a studio that requires people to record certain things. Like, for example, if you're going to record a 60-piece orchestra, you're going to need a commercial. You're going to need the space. That ain't just happening in anyone's house. No one's house is that big to host 60 people, unless you got a really big, like a mansion, with a very big room. But most people are going to, naturally going to want to go to a commercial studio for that. And then some people are still just going to go to commercial studios. So I think commercial studios are not going to be, well, let me rephrase that. I don't think commercial studios will become a thing of the past. I think they become like they're just becoming more and more less required. So in other words, you don't need 1,000 recording studios like in Los Angeles anymore. You might only need 50. It's kind of like, and those 50 is the ones that have the big rooms. The smaller studios with the smaller control rooms and the smaller live rooms, they can't do they may be able to do 5-piece, but not a 60-piece or whatever. Those are going to kind of fade. A lot of people just don't accept that, but it's the truth. It's kind of like if you do EDM, hip hop, techno music like that, anything that, like I can do a whole track on my whole thing on my MPC here. I don't need a recording studio for that. All the sounds are direct. So that's how I kind of look at it. It says, will people decide not to buy instrument software and gear to choose to learn prompts instead? That just depends on the people. I would say this. Here's one thing I do notice about people and instruments, stuff like that. Even though there are people that are still learning to play instruments, because you still see marching bands. So people are still learning, people are still going to school to play trumpets and saxophones and trombones and stuff like that. And they're playing a marching band even to this day. That's not going away. But I'm talking about when I talk about your industry instruments, like your drum sets with electric bass, electric, guitar, synths and stuff like that. I'm noticing it's less and less. Is not uh, that's why so many people that, I would say people that, like, for example, I get into hip hop and hip hop producers and all that. It's easier for them guys to sample and just take beats and sample because most of them guys can't play an instrument. And most to play to play keyboards as an example skillfully, you have to put in the work. You have to put in the time. There's no way around that. And a lot of people are just they want the easy way out. And so it's easier for me just to sample and use someone else's idea than to actually physically learn how to play and become really, really good. You know, it's kind of like a cop out, but that's really what it is. I don't. Why would I want to dedicate hours and hours and hours to becoming good? I can just that's the mindset of a lot of people, that young people, especially young people, which is it's kind of sad, but because I would say 200 plus 150 plus years ago, everyone took the time to learn how to play the instruments because that's the only way you could make music. Everyone to hear music, you actually physically had to make it, play it. So yes, I'll tell you. Let me say it's going to sound similar to something in the end. I think with the AI uh, right now, a lot of it because what it's doing is it's generating music based on what's already been generated, if that makes sense. Um, so what it's doing is it's almost like sampling, taking a song and resampling it and rearranging it. Um, if that makes sense, like that's what I've noticed. I don't. It doesn't matter if it's rock, R&B, whatever style it is. Uh, it could only, and it is doing it through a catalog of all the biggest songs that were ever made. Like for example, Warner Brothers entire catalog. Um, and it's basically analyzing that and rearranging. But the now what tools they're doing to do it, I don't know because I'm not an AI software coder. But I've noticed, like, if I want an 80s style, it's making that 80s sound. And some of those riffs and grooves and patterns sound really familiar to something that's already been done by some sort of band or whatever. I noticed that. So um it can only, whatever the case. So um yeah, I was checking out on Dio's asking, have I tried those vocal AI softwares where they're starting to add specific artist vocal sounds, male, female specific, prior to aren't alive anymore. It's kind of like, well, y'all probably seen like there's TikTok and all these short videos where they're generating Michael Jackson stealing chicken out of a restaurant, and he's doing all this dance. It's my chicken and all, and it's because we know Michael Jackson died in 2009. So like with Sora and all these different AI, yeah. So they're like I said, there's definitely pros and cons to AI. For example, the con. Here's one thing I do know about AI that can't be replaced. Or here's one thing AI can't replace: human live interaction. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can make AI generated songs and you can post these songs. But the thing is, let's say you go down to your local jazz lounge featuring a live jazz band. And it might be, let's say they're called the Night Crusaders. And these are real people. AI can't do that. Like I'm gonna go down to the the local night lounge and I'm gonna listen to this live jazz band play these just music. AI cannot do that. So welcome Don Gordy and Zone Recording Studios. I hope I said hello to everybody. So I wondered, did everyone have a great Christmas? I hope everyone had a great Christmas. Did you? I hope everyone got what they wanted for Christmas. Um, so, but yeah, I just wanted to touch on that and get. Yeah, that's exactly the tactical media. Just yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what it's doing. It's gonna AI is being trained of all the hits mostly. Yeah, it's kind of like from what I was gathering, it's kind of like every artist signed to like Warner Brothers as an example, and all their catalogs. So what AI is doing is it's going through every single catalog and every single genre and so forth, and it's doing it in microseconds. And what it's doing is it's all the sounds that are up. You know, we're talking. Let's say it's a song, "Africa" by Toto. That sounds it's regenerating those same sounds, but it's rearranging them to sound like an original stuff. Um, and they're using processing to make this stuff sound original and polished and all that. And it's doing it within seconds. Um, so even when it generates the AI vocals, it's generating the vocals to do all this stuff that those artists would, in the ballpark. Um, so that's why I said this AI is, in my opinion, especially with Suno, for being able to generate an idea and process it into a complete ready to go song, that's fascinating to me. I was blown away how good it sound, the vocal arrangements and all that. So I don't know if anyone's ever tried that or looked at Suno. If you haven't, look at it. Go and check out what it does. You know, you may or may not be impressed with it, but I was blown away with it, especially for me that I create music. I do my own tracks. Um, so it's kind of like I don't need Suno to make tracks for me. Um, now, but it does have an advantage for someone that wanted to create something ready to go really fast. So I'll tell you, say, hey, I can't go back to the mix and reprint again. There's no control. Well, like I said, it's like with AI, like anything, there's always going to be limitations. But a lot of the things that AI can't do, you might as well put it in your head now. There's a lot of things that you think AI can't do, but put that big old word, those 3-letter words, and capitalize in parentheses, NOW, now. There's a lot of things that AI can't do now, but you best believe it's almost like the same people that are fighting AI. It's the same thing that people that were fighting digital audio workstations and audio interfaces. There's nothing going to ever beat 24-inch tape. And then they realize you can't edit tape like you can in a DAW. You just can't. So it's kind of like it's one of those things. It's almost like I remember, and I'm telling my age. I remember when cars weren't fuel injected. We're talking the 80s. Fuel injection, you had so many mechanics that were anti-fuel injection. Those cars, fuel injection never work. Fuel injection is junk. Cars are, you can't get a computer to control a car. Now people look at a car with a carburetor and they call a carburetor is the thing that looks foreign. Right? And the thing is, now what they're starting to do is they're starting to adapt fuel injection on not just cars and trucks and stuff like that. They're starting to adapt fuel injection to lawnmowers because they realize fuel injected lawnmowers are way more efficient than a carburetor. Lawnmowers are starting to become fuel injected. That's my point. People that fight, it's the same thing like going back when people were riding horses and carriages were fighting the automobile. Now you can't get people out of an automobile. SUV or whatever. Because people are like, well, it's either that or I can walk or whatever. But no, most people are going to own a car. A car is a normal thing now. But it was foreign to people when cars first started popping up in the 1870s, right? Like, what is that? Oh, I'm never getting on that thing. You ain't killing me on that thing. You know, I'll get old my horse. You got to realize horses need food and water and rest. So that's what it is. It's just technology. It's just changing. It's evolving. It's going to evolve. Just like DAWs have changed the entire recording world. You know, it's like now I don't need a. So, well, do I need an analog console? Not really. You got a console in your DAW, or yeah, in your DAW, you got a console. You got a mixing console in there. But some people just like the sonics of an actual real console. Like me, I like the sonics of a real console. Uh, but will it, will your DAW's mixing console sound better? No. It's the same thing with everything, a lot of stuff going digital. You know, a lot of people, nothing sounds better than analog. Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, digital processing is sounding 10 times better. That's just that's all it is. It's just it's almost like I look at it because it's gonna, whether you want it to change or not, and people can be apprehensive, but it's stuff is gonna change, period. It just, you can accept it or not. So let's see. Zone Recording just says, I've been playing since elementary school, and I'm coming up on my 65th birthday. Okay, you got me beat by 10 years, but okay, happy birthday. Yeah, and that's another talking point. It says, I can see where this can make you lazy, but in the end, and is it worth it to do it yourself? And here's the thing that, like I said, one thing I was going to talk about this too, when it comes to AI and music creation. The one thing that I do like, yeah, it's more tedious, according to doing things in AI, like in Suno. It's more tedious to do it this way, right? It is way more, it's more time consuming. It takes a lot longer. Can you get pretty much the same result the AI is going to put out? Yes, for sure. But it takes a whole lot longer. But at the same time, what I like about this way is I have options. You're not going to have these options because AI is not thinking about 1176 compressors or LA2A compressors or, distressors. And, do I want to use a Yamaha reverb, or am I going to use this Lexicon reverb? Do I want to use my Womadio 47.2 microphone, or do I want to use my Rode NT2A microphone? Do I want to use my Avalon preamps, or do I want to use my Neve style preamps? Do I want to use, y'all get what I'm saying? Because they didn't think like that. They, now may get to the point, because and even in DAWs, when you're working in your DAW, you have the option to, your DAW is pretty much a glorified tape machine on steroids. Is pretty much what a DAW is. It's pretty much a tape machine on steroids. So I can use Slate or Waves or IK multimedia plugins. I might want to use this type of compressor. Maybe I want to use a Blue Stripe compressor. Maybe I want to use a traditional, whatever, this type of compression. The things that you're making choices as an engineer, you're not getting that with AI. AI is just generating stuff for you. Like I said, with the Suno, it's one of the programs I saw that's making ready to go tracks. Some people might want that. There's not. I can't sit there and say for people that may want to go that route and just make it easy for them. For me, I still like the fact that I can sit here and I can ride the faders, and I can put my drums on channels 1 through 8 if I want to. I can make the choices. Now, what Suno is allowing people to do is to download the stem files. So in case you want to load those in your DAW and then do some stuff like that. So you still have those options, you can. But that's how I look at it as a tool. So Dia says artist YouTube chopped up my, I got you. So anyhow, let me see. So Zone Recording Studios, I got a new studio monitor for my studio. Love it. What studio monitor did you get? People know, even though I got and I love these Kali, when it comes to studio monitors, I love the Kalis. I definitely like the Adams. But guess what else? Guess what else I want? Just to have another option is the Dynaudio. I still want the Dynaudios as well. So let me see. Oh, gotcha. Trying to do a live stream from my studio, trying to figure it all out. Gotcha. I need to start using OBS Studio more instead of just directly live streaming to YouTube. That's why y'all still see a latency thing. So oh yeah, there's Happy New Year's coming up too. So for everyone, that Happy New Year 2026 is coming up quick. Can you believe this year is gone? It's flown. To me, at first, it didn't seem like it was flying by. But here it is. It's December 28th. 3 more days, and it'll be 2026. So 2026. Yay. But I'm also getting older. My hair is already turning gray. So anyhow, so like I said, to me, some people, they may not embrace Suno or any AI program like that. Like I said, to me, the one thing that Suno or any of these AI programs is the live experience. Like I said, you might want to go down to your local lounge or your cons or whatever. Well, because AI isn't real people, naturally they're not real. But a real band, real musicians that can actually talk to people, that that's one of those experiences. And watching a live band, or if you're a musician playing in a band, yeah, AI can't replace that because they're not human. And that'll never happen. Now they're getting to the point where they're trying to make AI robots. And you might get to the point where you have some AI robots, and some of these robots look like, they're trying to make some of these AI robots look like real people. So that might, I wouldn't be surprised if you go up there and see a band and they were like, well, AI isn't real. And you see a band, you think it's a real band with real members, and turn out those are robots. It's almost like the iRobot thing. If y'all ever seen a movie with Will Smith called iRobot, I used to think those type of movies like iRobot and any of those futuristic movies, how you would watch a movie and it would show, even though it was made in the 90s or whatever, and they would show there's a futuristic, like you walking in, you could touch the air, and all of a sudden you hit these buttons and all these blip, 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 and all this, and it's generating histograms and all this. I used to think that, well, that's just movie and special effects, but it's coming. That's going to be a normal thing in the next, I don't know, by 2050, that's going to be normal. That's just going to be normal. And anyone born in that time frame, they're going to look at you like, what? DAW plugins? What's, what? Y'all recorded like that? You may think that's like, nah, yeah. Like I said, people that would start recording in the 70s using tape machines, they would never thought we have DAWs with plugins, because that didn't exist. So, Zone Recording just says Westworld. Yeah, I watched that movie when I was a kid. With Yul Brynner, and that was the first thing that creeped me out when his face moved. And he turned out to be a robot. He wasn't real. He said, I do use Splice and Pro Tools, which is good. Yeah, like I said, it just, you think about, it's kind of like with AI and anything else, it's just another set of tools. It's kind of like I would have never, if you think about it, when I started this, the stuff that we can do in recording and studios now, that stuff didn't exist. DAWs are pretty much just MIDI only for the most part. Audio recording, what? um, audio recording. Um, you can actually record audio on a DAW instead of recording it onto a tape machine. What? Plugins? You know, how are they doing? You know, that's what I mean. Now it's normal. It's like plugin. Oh, that's normal. I can get any plugin I want. You know, EQ, reverb, delay, compressor, whatever. That's a normal thing. But that wasn't a normal thing in the 90s. Like it didn't exist. You know, so I think this what's going on with AI and all this stuff today is that's gonna be normal. It's just new right now, you know, but it's gonna be normal in the next 5 years. It's gonna be like, oh yeah, AI. AI is gonna be like anything else. Whenever, you know, it's like whenever something there's dramatic changes in anything, people, you know, I remember when everyone was worried about when 1999 was turning 2000, they thought they called it Y2K, right? And oh man, the world's gonna end because you know computers don't have the ability to go past 1999. And all they did do was really turn out the coders, they just upgraded the software, you know, because there were certain things where certain things would not go past 1999 when it comes to the dates. And now they just everything like, oh, that's normal. And, you know, they went December 31st, 1999, when it flipped, and I'll never forget, I was actually at Fort Belvoir in Virginia. And I remember it went midnight and it flipped from December 31st, of course, you know, midnight, it became, you know, New Year's Day. And it was like, and it's like the computer, at that all the computers going to shut down. They didn't. The computers that just couldn't say, they couldn't display 2000, they just, I think they just went, they just, I don't know what the dates would say. But a lot of other stuff just, you know, because it was what, Windows 98 then? Was, yeah, Windows 98. And then they came out with Windows Millennium, which was a, you know, then they came out with Windows 7, then Windows 8, then Windows 10. And then for Mac users, you know, they start coming out with Mountain and Lion and all this for Mac users. But yeah, it just became a normal thing. Like the world didn't blow up. We just, you know, then in 2000, of course, Bush won the presidency by a narrow margin over Al Gore. So anyhow, so I have a 2-track MCI in my studio. That's cool. Is it worth it? Not so sure. It brings me back to because the only, like I said, with tape machines, you know, tape machines, especially 2-inch tape machines, they sound good, but tape machines, not only can you not edit them, they need a lot of maintenance and calibration because if you ever seen some of these like Studers have more advanced ways you can calibrate those machines, or like a Studer 827 tape machine. But like an old school MCI, you literally had to pull it back on the back, slide the tape machine. They have calibration adjustments on it, and you have to run calibration tape. And the tape can only go so far. You got to keep starting the tape over as you align. So you might get 6 or 8 tracks or channels calibrated. Then you got to start the tape over, and you got to do it at 15 seconds per second on the tape. Then you got to run it at 30 and so forth. And you got to do this for the align it, not only for the erase head, you got to line it for the playback head, and you got to line it for the record head. Because on the tape machine, there's three heads reading the tape, and there's an erase head, a playback head, a record head, and a playback head, right? So, and on that, those got to be cleaned and surfaced and maintenance. So that's a lot of time. So a lot of times in the downtime, the engineers or assistants, whatever, were aligning the tape machine to get it ready after so many times. Because if you're running at so many seconds, you know, let's say 15 seconds, they say you can get more time out of the tape. In other words, you can get 25 minutes or up to more songs at 15 seconds. But if you run at 30, you only get about 3 songs, and it's before you know it, the tape is out because the tape is spinning. It's moving. So, and after so many times, and after that, you have to go back and start checking head alignment, and because before each track start losing its fidelity, and so you got to go back and adjust the heads and all that. Kind of like on my tape deck. There's a little. Have you ever seen a tape deck? There's a little hole in there to take like a little bitty, like a needle, really really small alignment to adjust the head. Even on a regular standard cassette tape player, you have to adjust the heads after so many runs of running cassette. It's the same thing because it's tape. Has the same thing. Has a playback, a raise head, and everything so on it as well. So with all that, DAWs made life a whole lot easier because you don't have to do that with a DAW or even a hard disk recorder. A hard disk recorder, like I got a 24 track hard disk recorder, I don't have to line heads and calibrate the heads and all that because it's a hard disk recorder. The only difference between a hard disk recorder, like a 24 track hard disk recorder, and your PC or Mac is the hard drives in your PC and your Mac. So, oh yeah, you're saying recorders. So think about going to Chris Marr Tape Comp in the spring. Yeah, he's in Nashville at Studio 1979. I think it's North Nashville at Studio 1979. That's what he does, tape machines. Yep, inches per second. That's what I was trying to think. 15. Yeah, I run mine at 15 inches per second. Yeah, you get more tape time at 15 inches per second, IPS, versus 30. Even though 30 is going to give you a lot more, they say a lot more fidelity and clear, more high end and all that. But the thing is, and he's right, you can use tape over and over and over. But tape does have its disadvantages. So to me, that's why I decided to use really good converters like my Market Unicorns and my Antelope, and really use really good in converters as much as possible. So that was the premise of talking about no Biggie Legacy. Yeah, it's I didn't get any alerts about he's saying avoiding tornadoes. Because the only downside about being here in Tennessee, a place like that, when we jump from extremely high temperatures, like in December, 70 degrees is extremely warm in December for Tennessee, because our normal temperature would normally be more like 35, but we're going from 70 to 30, and that which causes storms. And a couple of years ago, we had a tornado, some devastating tornadoes. So I feel you. I didn't get any alerts about tornadoes in my area. I know it's supposed to rain and with expected storms because of a cold front coming in, because it's only supposed to be 30 degrees tomorrow, going from 70 to 30, which is crazy. But yeah. But no, you didn't miss anything. We're just talking about AI. And I'm talking about, is it a threat? Yeah, I think it could be a threat. It could be a threat in the way it can threaten. It's possible to threaten the way regular musicians create music, because it's competing. And the thing is, it could be, especially with a program like I was talking about, Suno, it's making tracks that are competing. It's making music that's competing with what people that make music like myself are doing, and it's doing it way faster. So, and the thing is, now here's where a lot of people are up in arms about it as well with AI. Now you got people on there that can get on Suno, make a track, you use an AI generated voice or whatever, vocals and all that, and do not even know how to play or create music. They can go on Suno and just write an idea, and it makes a ready to go track. So, and it's almost like for people like myself that like to be up in the studio, and I'm running all my gear through my console, and I'm deciding what EQs and what compressors and what microphones, and making all decisions in the entire process of recording and mixing and all that. And AI does it in seconds. So some people might be up in arms about it. But all I can say is I've been on Suno for about a week, and as good as the music sound, I'm blown away with how good the music sound for it to be AI. So, and them tracks sound good. I'm like, man, that's incredible. But I don't consider it a threat to me because I know how to make music. Some people might figure a threat. It's not a threat to me because I'll just go back and and I was gonna make a video, an AI song, and then I was gonna make a song and let people compare it, which I want to do. So says Don Gordy says, what about those old DAT players? I have the Sony PCM 400. I love it. I use it, along AD to DA, analog digital analog conversion. DATs were really, really huge in the 90s. But I don't know if people are really using DAT tapes anymore. For those that don't know, DAT stands for digital audio tape. I think it's digital audio or digital analog. It should be digital analog tape or something like that. Anyhow, but anyhow, DAT tapes. Because we're doing everything in DAWs. Most people would just print to a DAT instead of having to print to a half-inch 2-track master. They would just they just would just print to a DAT tape, and they would send it off, the DAT. But DATs are cool. Another thing that I thought was going to be a big thing. They had these things that looked like they were a little small. They were encased. It looked like a CD, but they were encased. So that way they didn't worry about getting scratched up like an actual CD gets scratched. And, once time a CD gets scratched, it's usually unusable because it's scratched. But it was encased. And it was also, you could record on it and you could keep recording on it. I forget what that was called. But I thought that was going to be a big thing. It's like CDRs, and it never caught on. Just like the big gigantic, they're not really DVDs. They were the what was the video disc, the big old video disc that you put in a video disc player. I thought that was going to be a hot thing, and it never caught on. Just like we thought beta over VHS. People thought beta tapes were going to be hot, and it never caught on. And so I don't know. That's just it's like anything else. Like with ADATs, they were a hot thing in the 90s, but now ADATs are like you'll be lucky if you can get VHS tapes. Like for those that don't know, like I would buy ADAT tapes that look like this. ADAT, they were actually ADAT, but they're just basically VHS tapes. Look like a VCR tape, except they were super VHS, designed for ADAT machines for 8-track recording. And I have ADAT machines. I'm like to pull these out just to, and but I need to open up all my machines and service the heads of my ADATs before I play them, and service the capstan reels and all that. But yeah, he said we're dinosaurs. Maddie says we're dinosaurs. Yeah. Yes, it's inevitable. It's kind of like I look at it like, yeah, I'm in my 50s. It's just time waits for no man. So that's why I think AI, like anything else, this is going to be a normal thing, whether we want to accept it or not. Oh, I missed the comment that says, I was thinking about buying some more software. Now I'm thinking that that's a waste of time and money. Damn you, AI. It's that's the thing that I was thinking about that too. I was like, at the same time, it's almost this it's creating songs, and it makes you think, well, dang, I don't do I even need gear and microphones and all that anymore? It created a song in 15 seconds or whatever. A ready to go song. I'm like, but I think personally for me, yeah, it may take me. AI did it in 30 seconds. It may take me 2 days to do the same song, but as I'm making the song, I'm using my options. I think I'm gonna, I'm gonna because once when AI generates it, it's generated, right? It may generate another track. You may tell it to generate a second track, or it might generate a few tracks, and then you keep regenerating tracks. But the beauty of doing stuff yourself is, as you're generating, I might want to change the drums without having to regenerate the song. Okay, I might at the break at the bridge, let me go back in my DAW and change something in the song. You're not doing that in AI because once it's generated, it's generated. You may go back and try to remix it, unless you want to download the stems and try to do that, that way. But you can make decisions as you're making the song, you know. So there's so many ways you can look at that. There's so many pros and cons. Like, well, the con is I can, whatever the case may be. But I might say, well, I'm going to put the vocals and run them through the 1176s. I don't even think AI is thinking about 1176 compressor. So that's kind of how that's how you can kind of look at it. But that was kind of the premises of what I wanted to talk about tonight. Is it a threat? To me, I don't really think AI is a threat. I think it's a serious competition. So Legacy says, I ain't scared. I ain't scared of you. I ain't scared of you. But like I said, because anyone that can create music, you're not worried. If you can create music, you're not worried about AI. You're not. But I was talking to a couple of buddies of mine. We were talking about this too, about how some of these AI artists at some of these charts, like some of the top R&B, hip hop, excuse me, R&B, hip hop, and what else? And country and are AI artists. And there are a lot of people that don't like that. How is AI? How are they number one? Because the thing is, the songs that are generated, whether it came from humans or it came from AI, that's what really matters. Are people liking the music? Whether it's, AI generated or human generated. If people like the music, they're going to like the music. You can't stop people from liking the music because it was AI generated. I can't do it. You can't do it. It's just a fact. And in some instances, like for people like us that get on these, that follow these kind of channels and all that, a lot of us are into music production, recording, studio mixing, and all that. But the average Joe that just listens to music that don't own or are not into this don't care. They don't care. They don't care. It's just like they don't actually they don't actually how you won the game. They just actually who won the game. They can care less. Some people may be a little bit more, whatever, but most people don't care. They don't care how the music is being made. They really don't. If they like it, they like it. That's just, they even if it's sampled, they don't care if it's sampled. But us as musicians, and stuff like that, copyright and all that, we care. If it's sample versus, like, do I want to listen to a sample or do I want to listen to the actual real musician? I would rather listen to the actual real musician. But now it's got to the point where even with AI, the AI is making the music sound like real musicians. So, and I have to give them credit. I like, I listen to some of them songs that I did on Suno. I'm like, that sounds pretty dang good. I would listen to it, you know, and I'm not, like the guitar parts on some of these songs I would listen to. Like, it doesn't bother me that George Benson or Earl Klug didn't play the guitar parts, even though it'd be nice if George Benson or Earl Klug or, guitar players like that play the actual guitar. But, you and I know it's computer generated. But then again, it's no different than if I was created some parts on the keyboards, used acoustic guitar sound from the keyboards. That's not Earl Klug or George Benson playing a guitar part. That's me playing the guitar parts on the keyboard. So it's kind of like, how do you argue that? So, but like I said, I don't think AI artists is going to last on the main charts. All of the unions, guilds, and lawmakers and lobbyists are against the full AI. Like I said, it's to me, the danger of some of this AI is that it's a lot of it sounds so realistic. It's kind of like, how do you know it's not AI generated? How do you know it's not human generated? Now it's getting to a point where AI is becoming so good, not only with music, but also with videos. The only reason why I know a lot of stuff, like when I watch AI videos, like on YouTube or whatever, I know it's AI because the situations and scenarios are too unrealistic. If y'all know what I mean. Like, I could be walking, all of a sudden a lion just, a lion jumps in my backyard. No, there ain't no lions. I mean, there's no lions within miles of where I live. But they'll put a lion in there, and all of a sudden, then this cat, which a lion would eat a cat for breakfast. But all of a sudden, this cat can scare off a lion. That's AI. It's just too unrealistic. So, oh yeah, Zone Recording Studio says you still need musicians to perform it live, or you can stare at the. Like I said, that's the one thing that we already know. The one thing, and they're already trying to do with AI in robots, and they're already trying to make some of these robots look like real people. That's the only way you're going to get it close. But other than that, the one thing AI cannot replace is a live human experience. They'll never be able to do that. Like I was saying earlier, you may go down to your local lounge band to see your local jazz band. Those are real people. AI can't make itself real, if that makes sense. They're trying. They're using, imagery and graphics and histograms, and they're trying to make it all that. But in the end, those are real. You go down and see a real band. AI can't generate a real band, and that's what a lot of people are going to want to experience. Is, and that could be the backfire. That could backfire against AI and people that think they're going to make these AI artists and have these AI on the charts. At the same time, people are like, well, okay, I've heard AI on Spotify. This song. Let's say you generate the song you did it in Suno, and all of a sudden you upload it to Spotify and Pandora and all that. People always hear it, but now it's like, well, I want to actually see the artist perform it live. That ain't going to happen because they don't exist. It's like these AI bands now. You're never going to see them live because they don't exist. So that could backfire against AI. Oh, you said it's competing on YouTube, and that's the thing. Here's like I said, and that's the thing when it comes to checking out real artists is the thing is that it's really how important is it to the people that are watching and listening that are liking it, whether it's AI or real people. There are people out there that don't care if it's AI. They don't care. They just like the music or whatever, or watching the videos. They don't care if it's real or not. They really don't. I've seen sometime where I watch a video and someone make an AI video of something like, and And you could clearly, anyone with common sense would say, oh, that's AI. But you got some people that are commenting as if that was a real video. Like, like there's videos where the people will go up and steal packages off people's porches and also the package blow up. That's AI. That's not real. And then the people run up to knock on the door. I'm calling cops on you. You all got all this blue stuff on my face, and you look what you did to me and all that. That's AI. Because you and I know in some of those video scenarios, people don't react like that. In some of those videos, a lot of times, real situations, you don't. A lot of people are unpredictable in how they're going to react. But so yeah, exactly. Just like that, pretty much sums it up when it comes to AI and whatever. The average person don't care. They don't. Legacy says, I can't listen to it. It does nothing for me. I'm sure there's tons of people that are cool with it. Once again, the problem is some of this AI is so good, you think you can't listen to it, and you're listening to it, you just don't know it's AI. That's how good some of this have gotten. It gives me some stuff on the, in other words, if you're streaming and the song comes up and it's just a picture, you don't know if that's AI or not. That's how good it's getting. So you said it might come to a point where Netflix, Hulu, and all the other streaming platforms might sell AI concerts. They might be. It's just you don't know. I don't know if I want to go to a concert where it's generating AI or whatever the case, but some people would love that. It's kind of like some people that go listen to. It's almost like where some people prefer to go to DJ dance shows with a lot of lights and listen to a DJ than actually go to a concert to watch the actual band, which makes no sense to me. I'm like, you don't want to go see the actual band? You would rather just listen to a DJ play their records? There are people like that. So I'm just pointing out that AI is just another form of software and protocol and everything else that's here, and so forth. But once again, when you're talking about computers and AI software, one thing that I think it can never replace is actually human real humans. It's kind of like people that they might watch porn all day, and they're in a room by themselves watching porn. But like, yeah, you can watch porn. You just do watching these women having sex, but you're not participating because it's on the TV or whatever, or it's on your computer screen or whatever, versus actually interacting with a real human, a real female, whatever case. That's the, you and I, you touch a real woman, you can't replace that with AI or touching an actual real woman. So, it's kind of like reason why we argue with. Sometimes it's well, plugins. Well, to me, a lot of times I like touching a real piece of gear. I like being going back and making the actual adjustments on the rack gear. I want to be able to actually go there and turn some real knobs. That's why I have outboard gear. That's why I actually have a console. I actually like touching a real console. I don't always want to be in the DAW using a fake mixer because it's fake. It's not a real mixer. It's a mixer, but it's not a real mixer. It's just a mixer in the software. I like being able to actually touch a real console. It's authentic because it's real. That's me. So let me see. I missed some more comments. I put on a site, fake rock, fake AI band players. I swear it was Silk. I like really, really great. I'm saying it's one of those things that I look at it. It's almost like yes, console, outboard gear, tape machine. But now I don't have a 2-inch tape machine. Do I miss? Am I like going to stop making music because I don't have a 2? No. because I work in a DAW, recording tracks in a DAW. It's just a normal way to record. And that's pretty much 99% of us doing that way. Tape machines sound good, but I just would not want to edit the tape. Just what I can do in a DAW, editing on an actual real tape machine is virtually impossible. Because once you, like I said, you hit that razor blade to that tape and cut it up, that's a wrap. You can't you could try to tape it back together, but and they used to work like that. I just like, man, I would not want to cut up tape. They call that destructive editing. I just but here's the one thing that someone said earlier. The one thing I noticed is that I don't think the great lengths of the creativity that came from real bands are there yet in AI. I think it's coming, and I mean, just there's certain things that real bands did. I don't see AI doing yet. It might be coming, but I don't see it coming yet. And it's hard to describe what I mean by that. And I'm just thinking about like Earth, Wind, and Fire. So that was kind of my premises of what people, everyone's thoughts on AI and your thoughts on it. Some people are just, you're not going to embrace it. And that, which is perfectly, you don't, I don't think you have to, like you have to use AI. But I also think that, there are people that's going to embrace it and use it as a tool. Some people will use it, some people won't. It's like some people that are going to use outboard gear, and some people are going to use plugins. It's just another tool, set of tools, or whatever. Whether you want, just like some people, they got to the point where there's AI mastering now versus an actual mastering engineer. I'm just going to get AI. There's now they get to the point where they're getting AI mixing engineers. So it's just like, it's kind of like, well, I can get AI because I can't get Chris Lord-Alge to mix it. I'll just get AI to do it. Because Chris Lord-Alge is going to charge you about $10,000 a song for his mixes. So like, well, I can't pay Chris Lord-Alge $10,000 a song, but I sure can pay this $99 yearly subscription to let AI do it. That's where it's going. It's like with plugins. I can't afford a $9,000 Pultec, but I sure can afford some Waves Pultec plugins for $39. That's just, So I hope everyone's gonna have a happy new year coming up. I don't know what people are playing. Some people are probably planning to party. Some people probably just gonna stay home. So I said, it amazes me artists have $10K just to mix a song. You'd be amazed. A lot of artists really don't have $10,000. What artists are having is money that was advanced to them through their record label or whatever case or whatever. And that money is recoupable. But I don't even know that's the case anymore with the way the industry is going. And like I said, AI is not just a threat to the music industry, it's a threat to the film industry. It's, or it's changing the music industry, and it's also changing the film industry, the TV industry, commercials, everything else. AI is not just in just music, it's happening everywhere. And if it's kind of like if you look around now, when you go to like Wendy's and McDonald's, now they have little order machines. You don't even talk to a human anymore. You go and do your self ordering. All right, Legacy. Happy New Year, and we'll see you in the new year. Happy New Year. Um, like myself, I'm not gonna be on very long. I'm not gonna be on here much longer either. I'm probably on here for another 15 minutes myself. But I think that's how I look at it. Um, and I'll just kind of say this from my experience of just messing with Suno. I actually honestly like what Suno's doing with the creation of these tracks. I really do. They so um like I said, I tried messing around with, I didn't like Udio. I didn't like the way it was. I just didn't like Udio. And then I tried to mess around with another one called Tune. And I think Tune's messed up because every time I would try to generate a song through Tune, which is Tunee, it would it kept fail to generate. It kept giving some excuse about the audio issues, and I'm like, and you want people to pay for it? You want people to pay your subscriptions and all that, and your software? It's AI. You would think it would have zero issues being able to create. Because when I'm in Suno, it creates the track within 30 seconds to a minute, and I got a full ready to go track. So that goes to show you, not all AI software is equal. Um, oh, have I? It said, have I ever heard of the Behringer Ultra Curve Pro? Yes. Um, Now you can get those things used on eBay for around about 100 to 150 bucks. Um, so have I ever used one? No, but definitely heard of the Ultra Curve Pro. So um, here's my question before I end this live stream. Everyone that's watching, are you going to still continue to just work the way you normally work? We're using your DAW plugins or whatever case, hybrid or whatever. Are you going to, or are you going to let AI websites like Suno and so forth, are you just going to use that more? I would love to get people's thoughts on that. If anyone has people even tried to use an AI program like Suno, that's a good question as well. Because I, like before, I wasn't even thinking about Suno until it was brought to my attention. And when it brought to my, I was like, oh, this might be a useful tool. So just want to get everyone's thoughts on that. Are you going to use like AI programs like Suno? Write it in the chats. Um, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, "Nah, I'm just going to continue to work in my DAW and create my own stuff." Um, I think I was reading. Let me see here. I thought I was reading where how many tracks generated by Suno were uploaded just in the last year. Because everyone's using GBT and all that now too. So I'm just curious. Because Suno companies like that, they create them fast. It says Suno generates an estimated around 7 million new tracks daily, which is equivalent to Spotify's entire library every 2 weeks. Though most will remain on the platform, which only a fraction reach streaming services like Spotify. can you imagine that? 7 million Suno songs a day. I'm gonna tell you one thing. They say Suno, when you generate songs in Suno, that these songs are their own unique to whatever you create, but eventually it's gonna become limited, and other people's creations are gonna start to sound similar to your creations, because it's almost like when they run it. It's almost like a pseudo random. It's like a million streams where you can only create so many combinations. Um, so Maggie says, I've used Suno. Okay, got you. Oh, says Google works little bit better than Chat GTP, and it's free. Google AI. Okay, but yeah, it's that's a lot of songs. It's the only thing with the gatekeepers, opening up the gates, and I mean that mean the internet is the how can I say it? Um, it's almost like it was already hard enough for people to get the publicity as an artist, because they open up the gates. In other words, the only way you could have gotten to get noticed, I'm talking Michael Jackson, Paula Abdul, Janet Jackson, that type of exposure as an artist was through a record label. Because then they got you, you made music videos, they got you on the radio, and everyone was watching, music videos, listen to the radio, and so forth. But now that the gatekeeper is the internet, it's millions of people that got stuff uploaded to SoundCloud, Reverb Nation, that will never get seen because the market is flooded with millions of people. And we're talking just over the last 20 years. Now that you got people making over 7 million songs a day, you can imagine within a month or a couple of months, you're talking 100, 120, 130, 140 million songs within. I don't even know how they're able to even upload how the hard drive and all that can hold that much data, but it's happening. So yeah, I just think that AI is just another tool that's here to stay. Excuse me. So I just want to get everyone's opinion on that, because AI is a hot topic right now. Hot topic. Everyone's talking about it right now. Maddie says, but then I just went back to writing and recording music. I would say right now, I wouldn't, if people are, if you're into just wanting to can create your own music and production, just I wouldn't worry about it. It's no threat. Um, like I said at one point, like any of those, they can only create because it's a computer. It can only create from what it can analyze. Data in versus data out. So there's no data in, it can't create. So, but you have to be very, very stable. The music industry is already in a. I don't think people can prosper and blow up in the music industry on that scale anymore anyway, because music has become so devalued. People used to value the time and it take for the art. Now, to a lot of people, the average consumer, music is just music. Yeah, it's just music. No big deal. And for the people that create it, put in all the hard work, um, and so forth. Says Maine says, Mark, when is the Zoom meeting going to come? I have no idea. I have no idea. I have to think how I want to do the Zoom. I might have to limit it to just like 20 people, whatever, because if anyone can get into Zoom, then it can become excessively overcrowded. I would never want my channel to turn into a Rick Beato channel. Rick, at least Rick can never interact with. It's so many. Whenever Rick goes live or whatever, it's he's got 50,000 people, if not more. His comments are flying by so fast. He never gets a chance to really interact with people personally. Like I always recognize everyone that tunes in, regularly. Like Secret Studios or Maddie Two Hats or like yourself, Maine 257 or Don Gordy or everyone that's tuning in. A lot of people had to leave, but a lot of people that was tuning in, Zone Recording Studio, and so forth. I had Tactical Media. I'm trying to think DL and Born Shamir. I'm trying to think of who else was tuning in. Michael Robertson. There's quite a few people. So, but yeah, he'd never be able to interact with that many people. It's just way too many people. So I have to think about how I'm gonna do that Zoom. Because I guess y'all can see what I look like, but I don't know what anyone else looks like. So, and plus, I see what people saying with the Zoom. That way you can, instead of me just responding to the chats. So let me think about that, man. It's true. Yeah, music is became. It's people have devalued it. They don't feel it's worth buying. That was part of the music experience, was buying the music you were buying. You felt like you were buying a piece of that artist that you were a fan of. I'm gonna buy their music. I'm gonna break out the CD. I'm gonna read the credits. I'm gonna read their bio and so forth. And I can listen to their music over and over. That was the experience. Now and you can, part of it's like the internet. Thank God the internet has opened up the gates, but at the same time, it's also a two-edged sword where it's its own worst enemy, because now people have access now. Why do I need to go and buy the album, the Barges album? I'm talking about the 1980s album, but I like it all that. Why do I need to buy it? I can just go to the internet and Google, YouTube search it, and it'll generate. So people are like, well, I can just generate. If it's on YouTube, I can generate it. So I don't need to. Why I need to buy it? That doesn't put any value. Versus the only way you can get it is to get the CD. And it's like, well, how can I get the CD? Well, you got to buy the CD. It would have more value to it. Because he's like, well, I spent money on the CD. That's where music has, has been devalued because of access. So that's going to be my take on AI. I just think that AI, it's just going to be another form of, it's just another standard music, software tool, or just another music. It's just another software. AI is going to be a normal thing like DAWs and plugins. So other than that, it's time for me to call it a night. I want to wish everyone a happy New Year's, and hope everyone have a happy New Year, and I hope you got what you want for Christmas. And of course, next time next time I'll be on here for a live stream. It'll be 2026. So I want to wish everyone a happy New Year, and let everyone ponder on that whole AI thing. and just kind of, ponder your thoughts on it. That's going to do it. And once again, Happy New Year for everyone. And we'll see you in the new year. Thanks a lot, everyone. I really appreciate y'all support. You all are great. And we'll see you next time.